And I would always like wait up. Even though I was really tired, I didn't want to go to bed until, like a little boy, I didn't want to go to bed until I knew he'd been murdered that night. And that was my favourite bit, getting the text about who had died.
Now, I'm so curious, how did you decide to join this show? How did you become the ringleader of all this chaos and treachery?
I know it's kind of a random, but they sort of over the months, there were sort of, I would be talking to my agents and things, and they'd be saying, oh, they might be offering you this sort of competition reality psychological thing in a castle. And I was like, what? And then and then said, oh yes, they're going to come. So then they sent me the Dutch version, mm-hmm. which I was intrigued because I do like odd things, mm-hmm. and I like trying new things, and so I don't close myself off to the possibility of things. And then so I watched the Dutch one. I was really fascinated by it, and then I talked to the producers, and I realized they wanted me to play a sort of a character, not just me, but like sort of a heightened version of me. And so that really appealed to me, and the sort of campery of it, and the sort of the Bond villain thing. So and they were really all for it, and so it was fun. And I sort of realized I'd get to sort of collaborate with them on what I said, and how I would look and all that. So it wasn't really like hosting a show. It was more like playing a crazy character, and I liked that.
It's a blast. It's definitely a different kind of show. I'm curious if you were familiar with any of the celebrities who were coming into play ahead of time, or if this was the first time you were encountering all of them.
There's a couple that I knew. Like I knew Brandy from Real Housewives, and I knew Kate from Below Deck, mm-hmm. and I knew Ryan, but that was about it. I think it's not my area of expertise, reality TV, but now I know a lot about them. Let me tell you, too much.
I bet. I mean, what an interesting group of people to kind of smush together, especially with the normal people. What was that dynamic like?
Well, it was really fascinating because, it's a very leveling thing that when you're in a situation like that, I imagine. And then, as the real people, for me at the start, I got confused. Who was the real person? Who was the celebrity? Because, they all look gorgeous, and they're all sort of in this game together. But as it went on, you could see that some people had been in that sort of competition-y situation before. And so it was really, really fascinating, and it's really interesting how when it gets down to towards the end, about the sort of ratio of real people to celebrities. The real people, they do pretty well. I'll say that.
Oh, interesting. Well, as the person who knows the truth, the only person who knows the truth on set, what was that like? Did you feel like you had this fun little secret? Did you want to tell people?
It's kind of horrifying to have that power, and to sort of think how, because there's a thing like they don't know how many traitors there are, and that was difficult because obviously I did, and just the way that I, would describe things, and so, often it was. There were scripted things, but often I was talking just off the bat, and I was getting things down my ear in the little earpiece. So it was really scary. A couple of times I nearly said something that would have given away stuff, and that was hilarious. But I really got into it. I really loved it. I loved the intrigue. My favourite bit was the round tables, and
I've heard they're juicy.
So juicy. And then, of course, I get to say, you have received the most votes and are banished from the game. Please come forward to the circle of truth. I mean, what's not to love about that?
The drama in and of itself is so much fun to watch. Is there anything that was difficult for you, other than not spilling the beans, watching this go down, or was it just a blast?
No, it was a real blast. I mean, it was hard, long days, and also just... keeping up with, it's sort of, I'd learned new things, like about working with an earpiece and being told, sort of guiding something live, as it were. I really liked it, but that was a new thing. But no, I had a real blast. Every night, I would go home after the round table, and it was sort of done as live, and I would say, you've disappointed yourselves and you've disappointed me. and then, come on, faithful. And then I'd go, and then I would go upstairs to get changed, and I would tell the producers, like, because next what happened was that the Traitors would go, and they did this thing where, like, they drove everyone home individually, and they're all being sort of kept in a little sort of bubble. But of course, the Traitors would have to come back. So they'd all like make them leave at different times, and the cars would go to different. It was so like spy film. And so then the Traitors would come back, and they would choose who they were going to kill. And I would always like wait up, even though I was really tired. I didn't want to go to bed until, like a little boy, I didn't want to go to bed until I knew he'd been murdered that night. And that was my favourite bit, getting the text of like who had died. It's so macabre, but it was really fun.
It sounds like a blast. I absolutely cannot wait to watch. Looking ahead to a possible season 2, would there be any celebrity that you would just absolutely love to see take on the challenge?
Yes, but they would never do it. But yeah, there are lots of people. I mean, it's so great seeing people, jumping out of a helicopter into a loch, or being in a coffin. I mean, just the terrible, terrible, terrible things they had to do. I found hilarious. I found absolutely hilarious, and some of them weren't. Not everyone's awful like this. Not all like bugs on your head or everything, but sometimes it was. It was. I just enjoyed very much seeing people, sort of scrambling around and being a hot mess. It was great. It was such a fun thing.
I love the chaos. I can't wait to see it all play out. And I really appreciate you talking to me about it today.